Hey there, traders. Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap, and really small move for the major indices once again. And but there was a lot of other things going on, a lot of other trades to do. So, kind of just looking at P&L for the day, which is up nicely today, as well as a lot of traders in our trading room. I think today who were just playing some of the names that did have momentum to them. Just a really nice day, I would say, all around. So why isn't the S&P moving, right? So we're down 9 basis points today. The VIX, people are getting really, I guess, frightened about the where the VIX is in terms of level. The VIX is now what 996, so less than 10, and hit a low of 956 this morning. So going back to the chart, there's nothing really frightening, I would say, out of this chart in the S&P. We're still in this uptrend. We're above all the major moving averages. We're just not moving, and I'm going to talk about this in 1 second. But this also, if you look at what we've done here, besides like after the first round of the French election, which was back on 425, look at the ranges, or look at how we finished here in the S&P. Down 5, up 6, minus 19 basis points, up 17, up 12, down 13. I mean, this is crazy. We had one day, which was Friday, which was basically the last half hour of the day where the market rallied. Other than that, we in the last 10 trading days, we really haven't moved 20 basis points up or down. So it's been one of the quietest time frames that I've ever seen in terms of the S&P moving. But you look over at a watch list in terms of the sectors in the S&P, and you kind of you kind of understand why. Energy is continuing to break down. Energy stocks were down. So like if you look at XOP or XLE, we'll start with the bad first of the day. They rallied right into basically resistance. Last 2 days they've been strong, but they were weak today. So you've got a number of sectors that are moving down, and you've got a number of sectors that are moving up. Besides that, it was on the downside. Metals and mining, also had a couple small days of gains. They were down 80 basis points. Telecom stocks, I'm not really sure why telecom is getting as hammered as it is. Maybe because interest rates are going up a little bit, but even that's not even. There was a little bit of a snapback rally. I think the last 2 days kind of looks like an oil chart, but the telecom stocks are weak here below the 200-day moving average. Materials, XLB was also down a third of a percent today. Utilities down. Banks down, all down almost a percent, 75 basis points. So you've got these areas that are moving down decently, and then you've got a lot of areas that are green. We'll start with the best one first, which is not really a component in the S&P, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what's going on with these China internet names. That's what we've been playing a lot in the Tribeca trade room. We want to go where there's positive momentum. So this is the KWEB ETF. I've been talking about this nonstop because it's 52-week high. It broke out here. You go and you look at the movers in this. So if you go KWEB, it's not just Alibaba and JD.com. It's the whole group. Look at this thing. BZUN up 9%, CMCM up 5%, C-Trip was up 4.4%, YY was up 3.5%. Baidu, I think a lot of people are starting to look at Baidu again, even though they fell on earnings. Real nice day for that name, up 3.1%. WB, Wuba also, not on this list, but in terms of performers. But look at this group, and it kind of follows emerging market. If you look at the Hang Seng last night, and also what South Korea has been doing, these Asia markets are really very, very strong right now. And then a couple names kind of perked up at the end of the day. Groups. I was just talking about the home builders group. I sent this out on Twitter. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago, talking about how the ITB ETF, which is really the home building ETF, because you got about 60% of the home builders in this ETF, but it's basically done nothing here for the last month or so, essentially since I went long ITB. But it's the 50-day moving average, which is the purple line on this chart, is now caught up with the price. And so nice move outside of value today. Let's see if we get some continuation tomorrow. But I would definitely be watching the home builders. This move happened like kind of a stealth move towards the end of the day. Just gathered some strength. I guess it was up about 0.5% and then kind of took another leg higher today. Home also biotech made a late move. It was a little bit bid up a little bit this morning after getting crushed the last couple days, and then right at the end of the day managed to break through value. So we did see some call buying in the XBI ETF yesterday on Monday, and then retail. So you got a bunch of areas. You had biotech up well over 1%, home builders up 1%, retail up over 1%. The solar names were up over 1%. I started a position today in First Solar. There was some call buying in First Solar today. And I've also been watching this right on the 200-day moving average. So again, I like these trades where your defined stop is very close by, very near term. You can't really lose a lot of money, unless it gaps down, of course. But if you look at a one-year chart here in FSLR, it had earnings last week now reclaimed the 200-day moving average. So a little bit of call buying going up, which I forgot to put that in my recap, which I will have to add that. But there were some calls that were swept. These were the June 37 calls that went up. So some small call buying, but still kind of that compelled me to say, okay, I'm going to get long for solar as it's above the 200-day. Plus, we see a little bit of aggressive call buying. I love it when there's a couple things going on that gets me into a trade rather than just one particular thing. So that's basically why consumer discretionary also up 60 basis points. So again, that sector review, you kind of add all those together, and you got the kind of a mismatch of or mismatch, excuse me, of things going on. Some groups going up and some groups going down, and then you look at the overall index and you're like, oh, okay, well that's why we're basically flat. Everything is not moving together. Things are kind of separating in terms of sectors, which is fine. I think I'd rather have it that way because then you can put on a couple shorts in this market if things want to separate a bit. In terms of some names after hours, Nvidia, we hit this as an earnings play. Let's see where it is now. We also saw a lot of call buying, and I mentioned the semis were strong, but we've been seeing repeat call buying, even though Micron got downgraded yesterday. The name has recovered very quickly, and that's always a good sign when a name gets downgraded by a big brokerage house, when it actually manages to rally above. This was the reaction yesterday in Micron, and we actually saw some call buying on the weakness yesterday. So a nice move up today. I've been long that name for a while since they reported last earnings. So it looks okay. I was actually going to take a portion of this trade off even before the Goldman downgrade. And I said, you know what? I said the chart isn't really saying anything. It's not breaking down. So I kept it on. We also saw a nice call buyer in Marvell. The name just got back above the 50-day moving average. Strong day today. Closed on the highs today, up 2.6%. We saw some January calls go up in this name. So another semi name. There's a bunch of other names. I'm actually long a little Broadcom going into earnings, which I think are in a couple weeks. That name just reached a 52-week high today, so you got some really nice strength in the market, and especially where we're seeing the call buying. So some of those weak areas, you don't necessarily have to be in. You don't need to basically trade the indices, considering they have some chop going on to them. So we did play a long NVDA trade, which it looks like that's going to be. We did the 108 110 call spread, so that name's up to 116. I had a hunch. I didn't play this in big size, but I had a hunch that Nvidia was going to. They've got a real nice history of earnings results, so it's not like it wasn't. I wasn't making a crazy guess here. You look at what the earnings history is, and it's been pretty strong except for one or two quarters. Keep in mind that negative 2.3% is when the stock really had gotten a little bit ahead of itself. That and you got a couple names down as well. Disney's down, Yelp is down, but we didn't play any of those names. So I'm quite pleased with Nvidia, and you could probably see. I would watch AMD tomorrow. It looks like AMD is getting a nice bid. So for those who've been long AMD on that 200-day moving average, very nice trade. It looks like. So it looks like it's holding the 200-day moving average, and maybe will come to life a little bit tomorrow with those earnings. So let me just look to see what else really traded today. Yeah, mainly, I can't put enough emphasis behind the the China internet names, they've been extremely strong. So BABA was a big win for us today. A couple other names that I'm watching on this list. This JCOM. This is a tough name to trade in options, but certainly a nice position, nice looking chart. Just had earnings, so always interesting to see when a name, when a call buyer comes in after there's been a little bit of weakness on earnings. Nike, which has been had a nice bounce from the 50-day moving average, got long that name on Friday versus the 200-day moving average. That's been working out quite nice. There's a little bit of square calls today. There was another name, more Wyndham. These hotel names have just been on fire. Marriott reported today. Wynn, which had earnings, what I believe it was back here, and is starting to make that move back up. So took out half that move, but we've been seeing a lot of call buying in Wyndham. So ILG, Marriott, those names have been really, really strong. There was one other name that caught my attention here that I was going to bring up, but I don't see it. There's a little bit of BK call options. We mentioned Micron, UNP. If I didn't mention that one, nice rail name. 115 calls. I have an alert. I'm not in that name, but I'm watching it. So that's it for today's recap. Have a great night, everybody, and see you back bright and early Wednesday morning in the trading room. Thank you.